Okay, so this is reading, and we're starting a new story called Jalapeno Bagels, and our comprehension deals with following directions. This story is about a boy whose parents own a bakery, so a lot of the directions are how they make things in the bakery. I'm going to read a story called Jennifer and Granddad's Garden, and what I want you to do is I want you to listen to the words. They're called order words that help us put things in order and how to follow directions. So there are words like first, next, then, or first, second, third, or first, next, last, or first, then, last, some words like that. So I want you to pay attention to those words when I'm reading them in the story, and then I'll ask you questions about them. Okay, so Jennifer and Granddad's Garden. Where's Granddad going with those little plants? Jennifer asked her mother. Those are tomato plants. He's going to plant them in the garden, Mom said. Jennifer watched her grandfather walk from the garden shed around the back of the house. Plant plants, Jennifer said with a giggle. That sounds like fun. Why don't you go see if he needs a hand, honey? Grandma said. Leaving Mom and Grandma sitting on the porch, Jennifer followed her grandfather into the backyard. Can I help? She asked. Granddad smiled and nodded. Let me show you how, and then you can plant some too. Granddad put the tray of a dozen tomato plants on the ground. These are seedlings, he told Jennifer. They're baby plants. When they get all grown up, they'll be almost as tall as you. Jennifer looked at the 6-inch tall plants and whistled with surprise. They've got a lot of growing to do, don't they? Granddad nodded. That's why I need to get them into the ground so they can start growing. They knelt down on the rich, dark garden soil. Granddad picked up a little shovel. This is a garden trowel, he told Jennifer. It's like a baby shovel. You use a baby shovel to plant baby plants. They laughed at Jennifer's joke. First, Granddad dug a hole with a garden trowel. Make sure it's not too deep, he said, and it's not too shallow. He put the dirt he dug out on the ground next to the hole. Then he placed the tomato plant in the hole. He made sure it stood straight and tall. Next, he scooped soil back into the hole and pressed it down around the seedling. Last, he gave the little plant a drink of water from the watering can. Think you can do that? Granddad asked Jennifer. Jennifer nodded. Granddad gave her the trowel. Jennifer dug a hole just like the one Granddad had dug, not too shallow, not too deep. Granddad handed her a tomato plant. Carefully, Jennifer put it in the hole straight and tall. She scooped dirt back into the hole and pressed it down. Then she gave her plant a drink too. They worked side by side, planting the tomato seedlings. When they finished, 2 long rows of tomato plants stood straight and tall in the garden. Good job, Granddad said. You're a natural gardener. Jennifer smiled and dusted the garden soil off her hands. So, Granddad, do you have any other baby plants to put in the garden? He grinned at her. As a matter of fact, I have some cucumber plants that need to get growing. Want to help? You bet. Jennifer picked up the garden trowel and followed Granddad to the next batch of new garden plants. So, what was the first step you should follow when planting a seedling? Let's go back and read again. First, Granddad dug a hole with a garden trowel. Make sure it's not too deep, he said, and not too shallow. He put the dirt he dug out of the ground next to the hole. So what's the first thing you do? You dig a hole. Very good. What is the correct way to dig a hole for a seedling? Good. Not too deep, not too shallow. So you want it not too deep, because if it goes too deep, then you're going to just bury the plant. But if it's too shallow, then the roots are not going to be able to grow down enough. After you dig a hole, what should you do? Let's read that. Then he placed the tomato plant in the hole. He made sure it stood straight and tall. So what's the next thing you should do? Good, you put the plant in the hole. You make sure it's straight, because if you don't plant it straight, it's not going to grow straight, and then it's not going to grow right. And what is the last step you should follow when you plant a seedling? Last, he gave the little plant a drink of water from the watering can. Good, he gave the plant a drink of water, because that helps the roots attach. It starts giving it the nutrients it needs, and they start growing and attach themselves to the soil. So there we go. That is first, then, next, last. right? Those are order words. So that's what we're learning with this new story. So we also have new high frequency words. And our high frequency words are, our high frequency words are early, hair, and instead. So I have some sentences here that I would have written on the board. So I woke up early this morning. So what do you think early means? It's the opposite of late, later. Very good. So early means before time, before a time you're supposed to be there, or opposite of later. I brushed my hair and washed my face. What's hair? Hair, right? The hair on your head, hair. The covering for your head. And for other animals, it's all over their body. I put butter on my toast instead of jam. What does instead of mean? Instead of means rather or in place of. Okay, so putting it on your toast, putting butter on your toast instead of jam. She used butter rather than using jam or instead or in place of jam. Okay, so I have some other ones here that we can fill out. I went to the barber shop to get my blank cut. What would go there? Care, oh sorry, not care, early, hair, or instead. Good, hair. That's the only one that really makes sense, right? Except for you can't get your hair cut at a barbershop right now. I got there blank. What would go there? Good, early. And then I had a trim blank of a cut. So a trim is when they just take a little bit off. So what would go there? Good, instead, in place of, right? In place of, so I had a trim instead of a cut. Very good. So now you're going to do page 93 in your practice book. So take out your practice book, page 93. Okay. Got a little bear on it. Somebody getting a haircut. So it says, write the words from the box that goes with each clue. So the words are early, hair, and instead. So you're going to write the words that go in with the box. So number one means the opposite of late. Early, good. We already talked about that. Very good. And number two, something that grows on your head. We already talked about that. Good. Hair. Very good. And number three rhymes with head. Remember, when we rhyme, are we rhyming the beginning sounds of a word or the end sounds of the word? Very good, the ending sounds. So what has the same sound as ed? Instead. Very good, instead. Okay, there you go. And you can do 4, 5, 6, and 7 on your own, but let's look at the bottom. The bottom says, use each word from the box in a sentence. Not more sentences, Mrs. Toon. Yes, more sentences. When you are able to write a word in a sentence, that means you're telling me you know what that word means because you know how to use it in a sentence. And that's the best way for anyone to know that you understand what the word means because you can use it in a sentence. So you're using early, hair, and instead in a sentence. A sentence needs to have, well, you're going to, each one in its own sentence, please. You're going to have a capital at the beginning and punctuation at the end. It can be a question, it can be an exclamation, it can be a sentence, it can be a telling sentence, it can be a command sentence, because we've learned all of those. Some of you are not capitalizing before when you make a sentence, and you're not putting punctuation at the end of a sentence. I know we're not in the classroom, but you're still in school, and you still need to be able to do this. Okay, you're going to have to do it for the rest of your life. Continue to do it now, okay? And your sentence needs to have a subject or a naming part and an action part. Okay, you can't just write instead of toast. That's not a sentence. Okay, I want pancakes for breakfast instead of toast. That's a sentence. Okay, so make sure it has a subject and an action, or a naming part and an action part. Okay, and that's your reading.